It's day 2 of a conference, and that's always just a little bit more painful than the first day. So I'm going to try and make this easy as I can and a little bit more user-friendly. Slight change to the program. I'm going to focus a little bit more today on DAOs and legally structuring them internationally. The reason being, I gave this speech in Dubai a few weeks ago, and there was such a hugely positive response that a bunch of people were like, you really need to talk about that a little bit more and elaborate on it. So happy to talk about international stuff one-to-one if anybody needs it. But let's talk about DAOs, because that's kind of a really hot topic at the minute and very, very interesting. First of all, a little bit about me. I'm an international lawyer, managing associate of Gresham International. We have offices in Dubai, Europe, North America, and we're really only crypto lawyers, not lawyers that work in crypto. I'm a contributor to independent articles, magazines throughout the world, wrote a book for anybody that's interested, anybody that needs any boring bedtime reading. First piece of housekeeping I say at the beginning of every speech. I am a lawyer that works in crypto, but I'm not your lawyer. So anything I say up here is not legal advice. I don't want you to run back and be like, well, Cal said to do that. Let's try and ignore that. Overview on stuff. Look, what is a DAO? It's essentially a decentralized autonomous organization. And it attempts to be an independent legal structure of anything that's around it. It is much the same as any other business structure. What it means is that there's different legal governance within it, and the way in which decisions are made are slightly different. There is no set location. Decentralized, autonomous, it's kind of the clue is in the name, right? And it's got some very cool governance models. The advantage of a DAO is it enables you to do some very different things that you can't particularly do with what we call a flatline company. Flatline company, shareholders, board, management, structure. It is great for tokens and adventurous projects. And by that I mean projects of acquisition. We've seen recently companies buy football clubs, airlines, lots of exciting things have been acquired by DAOs recently. But why were they created? Look, the DAO was kind of created through this natural evolution cycle. And it's been really, really, really interesting to see. We know in crypto that people love the concept of decentralization. Things being given back to the community over, for example, a centralized organization where somebody might be in control of it. The official story is that, look, it's all community driven, it's all very easy. I'm going to tell you now, the unofficial story is there's this very bizarre feeling that people think if they set up a DAO, because it's not based anywhere, they don't have to follow the laws of anywhere. It's almost like a catch me if you can thing, right? I'm not really here, so you can't really catch me. Look, I'm going to say this. If an organization doesn't exist anywhere, then the laws of a country don't apply to it. I've literally heard somebody say that before in the past. I hate to tell you this, it's kind of not true. Lies are a necessity if the truth is hard to believe. That's a quote by Pablo Escobar. If you're not familiar with Pablo Escobar, Google some of the biggest drug dealers in the history of mankind. Why do I talk about Pablo Escobar? Because if you think about it, a cartel is kind of like a DAO. It's kind of the original DAO, right? Think about it. Switch some of the words around. The founders are the gang leaders, the members are the users, consensus management is the mob bosses, and the tokens, well, you just kind of trade that out for whatever the product happens to be that particular cartel decides to work in. So really, what is a DAO? I mean, look, the old legal truth is that DAOs have existed for years. Internationally, they've existed for years. They are already classified in most countries. If we take the United States, if we take Canada, if you do business with a group of people, you become something called a partnership at will. The government says you have formed a partnership. In the United Kingdom, you create something called an unincorporated association. It's a group of people working together, but you're not a company. There are great examples of this, but you have to be so careful, because if you are a group of people that works together and you buy a bunch of stuff, certain countries will say, you've now become a collective investment scheme. It's almost like picking your poison, right? You think because you're a DAO, you're not really incorporated anywhere, the laws don't apply. But if you look at cartels, if that really worked, it really wouldn't matter. So we see so many DAOs, and you think, well, wait a minute, DAOs are awesome. If that's the case, why are so many people using DAOs as a business model, right? Internationally. Well, the crypto industry is full of. These guys did it this way. so I'm going to do it that way. That is the worst idea anybody has ever had. Just because somebody else, another organization, another company has done something that way, doesn't mean you guys should do it. I mean, do you ever remember that expression when you were kids, right? If your friends jumped off a cliff, would you jump off the cliff too? It's the same thing. I mean, I don't want to be the mother in the room, but think about it for a second, guys. We look at examples like this, right? All we have to do is take the expression, we're too big to fail. I hear that all the time. We created a DAO, we did it the way that they did it. We created a company, we did it the way that they did it, and we're too big to fail. I kind of hate to tell you this, but all you've got to do is look at Ripple, Consensus, Binance, all under investigation somewhere, all facing civil and criminal lawsuits somewhere, all under some kind of trouble, because they took the approach that they were too big to fail, and people have followed them. Now they're also in the spotlight. It's pretty terrifying when you think about it for a second. So what can you do? Look, what can you do to make it legal? The first step is this: accepting the fact that because you are autonomous doesn't mean that the laws don't apply to you. They absolutely do. They 100% do. So what you have to do is pick a real DAO in a real model that really exists somewhere. And what does that look like? 3 key things. You have a governance model. You have a separate legal structure, and that gives you protection. If anybody is not sure why we put the word limited or LLC or incorporated after a company name, it's because you are showing that is a separate legal entity. And we use the term limited liability because the limited liability of the owners, the members, the directors, are limited to that company. If you are a DAO, which you have created yourselves, you are not limited in your liability, which means people come after you. And that's why whenever I hear people have done a token sale from a DAO, we created a DAO, us 4 guys, and we sold tokens, and we sold it from our DAO. I'm terrified. Like that's really terrifying. So what do? Well, you pick the laws that work best for you. You actually create a realistic DAO. In the UK, build an unincorporated association. Tell people that's what you are. We have some places in the world like Wyoming where you can physically set up an actual DAO. It's kind of a complicated advanced LLC, so just put in your head, we set up a company. One of the things I've said for years is, if you take an LLC in a country that doesn't require you to keep a members list, a list of your members in that LLC, and you tokenize it, you've just created a really cool DAO. Token holders are members in the LLC, and that's basically what a DAO is. Or you open an open-ended partnership. Or you do something really cool, and you open a Panama Foundation. Why a Panama Foundation? Because under Panamanian law, physically nobody can own it. Sounds kind of like a DAO, right? Still a separate legal entity. So what we have to do here is we have to think smart. We have to think smart about what your DAO is actually trying to achieve, how much protection you actually want, and how you don't want to run a business like the cartel runs their business. And if those 3 things are pretty true to what you're trying to do, then you have an opportunity to create a pretty succinct and really cool governance model. The purpose of this isn't to dissuade you from creating a DAO. It's not to dissuade anybody from taking their project internationally, and it's not to dissuade anybody from getting proper legal advice. What it's designed to do is to tell you to think smart about the actions that you take, and don't just knee-jerk because other people have done it, or because you think it doesn't really exist, you'll be protected. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Come and grab me. I'm on a clock. I'm going to grab you afterwards, sir, so I appreciate that. Thank you. But guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm down to 10 seconds. You have been an awesome audience, and thank you so much.